Data entry can be done for a specific year only after the portal administrator has opened the session for that specific year. Let's suppose that the administrator has opened the session for the year 2014. As an operator of Électricité du Liban, EDL, and which you can see here, EDL data entry, after login, I go to data management and inventory, and the list of data grid for inventory management appears. I can filter on the date, I can filter by the name of the grid, I can filter by year, for example 2014, where I see that I have no data grid so far for the year 2014. So here, what I should do, I should click on the button New Data Grid in order to create a new empty data grid. So I click on the button, I select 2014 for the year, and here, based on the value that I have selected on the field before, appears the data grid that are available that I, as a EDL operator, I need to fill. As you can see, most of them are red, which means that I cannot select them. The only one that I can select is the power plant. So let's select power plants data grid. The field annotations, in case you need to record some comments for the power plant for this specific year, this is the place where to do it. Then you have to select one or more reference. The references are the one that you have used for the value that you are going to type in the data grid. A reference can be an Excel file where you have written all the calculation, the formula, the algorithm that you have used to estimate your value, or can be a published document. You can select more than one by selecting here, and if you don't find in the list the reference, you can click on this button just to add a new reference, where as you can see, the system asks you the year of publication, the title, the authors, and to select the file that you're which is the reference, and you have to decide if this reference is confidential or not. A confidential reference will not be available for the public, though it will be, of course, available inside the portal. Let's suppose that we are going to select the power plant fuel consumption. Then, once we have selected, we have filled all the information, we click on the button Insert Grid, and the system, as you can see here, have added a new row in the table. So if I select 2014, now I see that I have one data grid for me to use, and you can see that there are three icons. One is the grid. The first one is the one to be used for entering the value. The second one, in case, for example, you need to add a new reference, another reference, or you want to change something in the information, you want to add an annotation here. And the third button, as you can see, is a trash icon, means it is used to cancel the old data grid. This icon, this feature, will be available until you are in the data entry procedure. Once you complete the data entry and you move one step ahead in the procedure, you will not be able to delete the data grid anymore. Let's see now how you enter data into the data grid. So we click on the green icon and we reach this screen where on top you can see the references. We have selected only one. If there were more than one, they will appear here. If you click on the title, the reference will pop up. It will be downloaded from the server. In this case, it is an Excel file that has been calculated, and you see main assumption. I mean, this is the type of reference that will be very useful. You see that you have here the factors, you have the Zook, the different power plants, and this is the file that is being used as reference for the data grid. Now, the screen is a table where you have the breakdown. We are working now on the data grid power plants. So the first breakdown, of course, is the power plant, the different power plant that you have in Lebanon. And for each power plant, you have another breakdown, which is the fuel. Now, you can have only one fuel if it's the power plant use only one fuel, or you can have more than one fuel if that power plant use more than one fuel. In column, you have the variables: electricity per year, amount of fuel, and fuel stocks. You have the unit, gigawatt per hour, 1000 tons, and fuel stock also is in 1000 tons. Now, here you have to enter the data. Please, for example, I tap 100. Let's see what happens. That as soon as I tap it, I change the value inside the field, the save icon has become orange to remind you that this value, this field, has a value that needs to be saved. So you click on it, it's become green, and this value now has been saved. You don't need to do anything else to save the information. If you go outside, you click here, you go home, and you come back to the inventory, you click on it, and you will find that your value is still there because it is saved on a per field basis. Now, a field, the value inside the field can be a value like this, 100, can be like this, a missing value, or it starts with a missing value, or it can be not estimated. What is the difference between missing value and not estimate? A missing value is a value that it should be available, but that at the moment I don't have with me, I don't have ready available. Not estimate is different because it means that for that specific breakdown and sub-breakdown and variable, it's not calculated, it's not been estimated, so no need to search for. This value simply has not been estimated. This is the difference between missing and not estimated. Now if we go here again, and remember that you see it's orange, so it means that this has not been saved. If I go here, I go back to the same data grid, I pick the information, and you see that it was the one that I saved missing and was not saved, not estimate. Now if I put not estimate, I save. If I go back, I leave this data, the screen, and I go back to the screen. Now it has been saved. Another consideration is this confidential. A value can be confidential, which means that that value has been inserted because it should be used for the calculation, the total calculation, but that specific value should not appear in the public output, like an Excel file or what else, whatever. This is somehow we are talking of data that can be sensible and confidential, and that's the way to manage the confidentiality. This data will be seen inside the portal, is not going to be anyway available, visible outside the portal in none of the outputs produced by the system. Now let's suppose that we have 1000 gigawatts, amount of fuel 500 tons, and 100 fuel stock. And then you go and you enter all the data, all the field. At the end, you can click back. It means that you go one step back, or you can close the data grid. Please notice that close the data grid means that you move one step ahead the data entry procedure. If now I close the data grid, the system will go, this data grid will go to the validation phase. But since I left a lot of missing value, if I click on the button close data grid, there is a notification which is pop up from the system that says there are missing values. Are you sure you want to close the data grid? Is asking you because once the data grid is closed, as I already said, the procedure move one step ahead, so the data entry operator will not be allowed to make any modification in the system anymore unless the validation send the data grid back to data entry procedures. So if I say OK, for example, the first consideration, you see that the button for deleting the data grid is not available anymore, and if I click on the icon here, I cannot do anything. I cannot do modification. I have no button at the bottom, and I have no possibility to move. I'm not allowed to do any modification because if I go back, I can read that the status is waiting for validation.